What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Burbs Final Digest, where our music staff comes together and we rate and review an album by answering some questions about it. This week's project is Isaiah Rashad's The House is Burning. Dawg Entertainment, the label that he belongs to, is famous for holding their artists' long-awaited projects from their listeners' patient ears. Whether it's SZA, Kendrick Lamar, or Isaiah Rashad, TDE disciples like us typically have to wait at minimum a calendar year for another project from the most valuable label in hip-hop. Isaiah Rashad, whether it was his decision or Top's, hadn't released a project since 2016's The Sun's Tirade till this past weekend. The House is Burning is a triumphant yet somber return for Rashad, whose voice remains as instrumental to the rap game as any of his contemporaries. We came together to answer some burning questions about his new album. First question. Congratulations, guys. We made it 4 years, 10 months, and 28 days without a new Isaiah Rashad project. Now that The House is Burning is finally here, I have to ask, did it live up to the hype? Did you want more than just 16 tracks and 48 total minutes to satisfy your half-decade-long inspired desires?
I think it definitely lived up to the hype. I've never been the biggest Isaiah Rashad fan, but this is a great record. 16 songs, 48 minutes is a great length. He keeps his thoughts concise, and I think it's fairly consistent throughout, with a few highlights that I think will chart, and then some serious deep cuts that fans will really enjoy.
Yeah, honestly, I thought this album was the perfect length. Didn't feel like it was too long or too short, and there was no filler. And for an artist like Zay, who I really like and I've been waiting on, I think 16 songs is like a perfect length for an album. Because I feel like if it were any longer, it would just end up being kind of inevitable that there'd be some filler. But yeah, I think as it is right now, The House is Burning is a masterpiece.
It seemed too good to be true. A day before my 21st birthday, Isaiah Rashad, after 5 years pretty much, 5 years, drops The House is Burning. And did it live up to the hype? Hell yes. This album is great. Whether it's his still remaining minimalistic format, you even see experiments of vocal performances that have been completely changed. His usual choruses that are very catchy still remain. He does a really good job of mixing up features of big names like SZA, Black, and Smino, with just other ones like Cal Banks and Jay Worthy that you wouldn't really expect. I think that just the mismatches of instrumentals and flows and him complimenting solo songs, I think The House is Burning is just as good as The Sun's Tirade, maybe even better. That could be a recency bias, but did live up to the hype, no doubt. Isaiah Rashad came through, and I can only thank him for providing the great music. And I'm after a stint with rehab he was in, and he was having stomach ulcers and work ethic problems and drug problems. It's just great to see that he made great music, and he's in a great state of mind now. You can see in interviews, it's a great thing. And even though it was a long way and people complain all the time about it, I'm just happy he's okay and his music is still great, and it's just great to see. It's great all around.
Yes, this new Isaiah Rashad project definitely lived up to the hype for me. For me personally, The Sun's Tirade, Sylvia Demo, those were always albums that I could just put on to vibe to. And this one's definitely the same thing, but when I was listening to this project and I, gave it a second listen, the only thing I kept remembering was how good of bars Zay really has been able to put out, and how you kind of just take him for granted because he raps them in such a laid-back register. Something about this album specifically, I really started to pick up on a lot more of the themes and ideas that he was trying to convey. I know in an interview with Complex he was talking about how he doesn't really make concept albums, but I definitely think that this could be identified as a concept album. You constantly see Zay talking about what life is like in the hood and life is like once he finds success, and how he's kind of battling between those two, and he doesn't really know who he is. And I think that was like a really interesting theme that he took. Certainly, if he keeps putting up projects of this caliber, and he said that he wants to make a dedicated concept album at some point, I would love to see another Zay project sometime soon. Obviously, I don't want to wait another 5 years, but if that's how long it takes to get something of that caliber, I would gladly wait it.
Isaiah Rashad went from borrowing Kendrick, SZA, and Sir for their features on The Sun's Tirade to getting some of the biggest names in modern music to feature on here. Who had the best guests first?
Yeah, I would say this album was pretty stacked on features. I think out of all the guest verses, Smino had my favorite. And obviously, SZA and J-Rock are up there too. But I was also really impressed with features from Black and Uzi. I think they both had really memorable features.
In my Spins podcast last week in music, I did project that Uzi, I was more interested in the feature, and honestly, one of the worst, it was one of the worst songs in the album, so that was really sad for me to see, so my prediction completely fell short. And I think that SZA, Black, Smino, Duke Deuce, J-Rock, all these guys you really see on, usually you'd see on a project, not a Duke Deuce, but just that lived up to the hype of their name. So I think that, I don't know if I want to say they would have the best one, but the ones that surprised me were Jay Worthy's one and Amindi's one. We were both on on All Herbs and True Story. I think both of them are phenomenal in their own respective right, and that they really showed when I was listening. I'm like, wow, surprised, like, wow, these guys really killed it. And I think Isaiah Rashad does a really good job grabbing names that fit perfectly in each song, and they both did immaculate on matching that song and the idea of that song. So it was really good to see. So I don't know if I want to go best because I had a really good one, but the ones that surprised me and really set the expectations were the Jay Worthy one and the Mindy one.
In terms of features for me, Uzi's definitely stood out to me as my favorite and the one that I'll probably return to the most, just because I think his flow on there was impeccable. I think he was rhyming on, a beat that isn't really typical Uzi, and I really like to see that. He has a pretty specific style, and I think this one was kind of out of his wheelhouse, and I feel like when he branches out, he does some really good stuff. We saw it on Tyler's album as well, but definitely some really interesting stuff, and I liked Uzi, talking about how he likes repetitive beats, stuff like that. He just had a really good cadence throughout the track.
I'm not sure who had the best guest verse. I think that's pretty subjective. I could tell you which guest verse I liked the most, and that was Amindi on All Herb, one of my favorite songs on the record. I think her backing vocals were wonderful, and then she got a few solo lines in the middle of the song. One of the waviest tracks on the entire project, and she killed it. I think she goes perfectly besides Isaiah Rashad, and I look forward to listening to some of her music now that I know who she is.
A couple of quick questions here back to back. What's the catchiest track and which one is your favorite so far?
Like I said, my favorite feature, Uzi was my favorite feature. That song is probably the catchiest track on here. Usually I'm not a big fan of like super repetitive tracks, but something about listening to Zay keep going, came out busting, that shit was hard as fuck. I love that. I want more of Zay kind of using some of those repetitive beats because it seems to be it goes well for him, and not a lot of energy on too many of these songs, but that was definitely one of them where definitely a headbanger for sure. As for my favorite track, probably Don't Shoot. It was definitely one of the shorter songs, but I love anytime Zay really goes into the nitty gritty of what that lifestyle was like for him growing up and coming up before, he was successful. He definitely really outlined what that was like in a very, emotional way, really. While he's still talking in that laid back register, he still has some bars in there that really cut deep and kind of paint that picture for you. Kind of the awareness that he shows in showing like this was not the right mentality and this was not the right path for him. Definitely one of the more conscious elements of this album, which I really enjoyed.
Hip-hop Twitter's been going crazy, absolutely crazy over Rip Young, and I have to agree. I think as the catchiest chorus, they saying I'm a cool cat, fuck that, tell him I'm a top dog is such a great opener to a chorus. It's such a great opener to Isaiah's whole time and how he's been gone all this time, and then he comes back, he's like, tell him I'm a top dog. They've been sticking with me. He says, I just can't, how do you not pick that one? I don't even need more to say.
Aside from Headshots, I think I'd say that the catchiest track on there was probably R.I.P. Young, and my favorite track on the whole album, I can't decide on one, but it's either Headshots, R.I.P. Young, or HBTU. I think all three of those tracks are just super wavy.
Catchiest song in my eyes is Tib, or THIB. The 5-note retro synth chords that Isaiah Rashad puts down, or the producer puts down, are just hypnotizing, and they're really off kilter. Like, it's not a conventional chord progression, which is really cool. I think that some of Isaiah Rashad's best moments aren't when he's rapping, but when he's spitting out lyrics in a harmonious way or a melodic way.
Last but not least, Isaiah came out and he said that he doesn't want to have this long of a gap in his discography again. How long are you willing to wait until the next Rashad project? How long will The House Is Burning actually tide you over for? Calendar year, 2, 3, 4?
I'm a guy that I think that music needs to be taken care of, needs to be perfected, and it needs time to grow. I think that pumping out, unless you're Griselda, the exception, pumping out music, album after album after album, usually wears everyone down and it gets people sick and kind of sees the same repetitive flow. I think that Isaiah Rashad does do a very good job of taking his time and crafting it. So I don't really care how long I have to wait. He held good. I like to see 2 years. 2 years is usually a great time. It's not like, it's just enough time where like, okay, well, I'm ready. But it's not too long away where you're kind of like getting dragged and you're a little antsy for it. So I would say 2 years. I could wait another one, but Isaiah, take as long as you want. I care about artists' mindset over anything, and I don't really care about time of launch of music. It takes time for music to happen. The music business is a hard one, and I care about people's mental health over their music output, so I would say whatever comes first comes first.
Going forward, I think about 2 to 3 years would give us an ample amount of time to treasure this album and really take it in, and also prepare for his next release. But hopefully we can get some other TDE releases during Zay's next hiatus.
For me, as long as Zay wants to take, that's fine with me now. I do like hearing from TDE. be more often. We haven't gotten a SZA project in quite some time, Kendrick project in forever, and this one has been coming 5 years now. So I would love to hear Zay soon. I know he said he doesn't want to take as long in between each project anymore, but definitely can see why it took so long to get to this point, especially with all the things that he's been going through and, you know, still battling the demons of his past while trying to put out music for, you know, the future. Isaiah Rashad has done a phenomenal job, and I would love to see him continue this path in a more succinct timeline and give us another House is Burning level project quite soon.
I don't care how long he takes to make the next album. If he says that he's gonna make it faster, or he doesn't want as long of a gap between the House is Burning and his next one, that's fine. I don't care, you know, take your time. Some of the most talented artists that we choose to listen to, you know, Frank Ocean, Kanye West, so on and so forth, Tame Impala, you know, they take their time with their music, and I think that's really valuable. They deserve it. They deserve as much time as necessary to deliver these wonderful products for us.